The second half is the reforming the system, and that work continues with all of the parties.
Tonight, a $23 billion settlement on child welfare is approved. So what comes next?
A relief, sort of thing. You know, you don't have to go report to anybody anymore. Yeah. Nobody following you around anymore.
Bail is granted to a First Nations man who said he was wrongfully convicted of murder.
It's everything. It's everything that we shoot to do. We want people to come to Akwesasne to see all that we have to offer.
And a pumpkin inferno hits Akwesasne Mohawk territory. Good evening, I'm Dennis Ward. Welcome to APTN National News. Big news out of Ottawa today. A federal court judge has verbally approved a $23 billion compensation agreement. It's for First Nations children and their families discriminated against by a chronically underfunded on-reserve child welfare system. The agreement could affect as many as 300,000 people. But as APTN's Fraser Needham reports, how and when compensation will begin flowing remains unknown.
Speaking outside federal court in Ottawa on Monday, Carolyn Buffalo said victims are happy to be finally moving toward a settlement agreement, but it should have never been this way in the first place.
They could have saved a lot of money, a lot of time, a lot of heartache if they supported the families on the reserves in our communities rather than taking our kids, putting them in foster homes, and they support the foster homes. They don't support the families on reserve, which is completely ass backwards, if I can say that on TV.
Speaking before a cabinet meeting Tuesday morning, Minister of Indigenous Services Patty Hajdu said a government apology is definitely in order, and the Prime Minister would be the most logical person to do it.
It's hard to really imagine the level of discrimination that created such difficult situations for families, and indeed many of the litigants, member classes, many members have actually passed away. So Canada definitely owes a debt of apology, and of course the Prime Minister is the lead of the country, so he'll be considering that request very closely.
But First Nations Child and Family Caring Society Executive Director Cindy Blackstock said an apology will mean little unless the First Nations child welfare system is significantly changed.
Well, I do believe in apologies. Certainly these victims deserve individual apologies for the harms that they experienced, but I want a meaningful apology. And you can't say sorry for wrongdoing when you're still doing the wrongdoing. So the best apology Canada can make is change behavior.
Hajdu said less about when a compensation package will be rolled out.
Well, actually, the distribution approach will be designed by Indigenous people for Indigenous people, so I'm not able to give you a date. Certainly, I know that the partners, of whom many I met with yesterday, are very eager to have a process that's fair, that's trauma-informed, and that's as rapid as possible.
For her part, Buffalo said it will be very difficult to ever trust the federal government after what her and her family have experienced.
I don't know if there ever will be a level of trust. I don't think it's ever been there. The federal government and the provincial governments, all of them, and territorial governments have all been egregious in their treatment of our children and families. I don't think I will ever trust them. I'm glad they're taking this step, but it's not justice.
APTN News reached out to Prime Minister Justin Trudeau's office for a comment on potential apology, but did not hear back by airtime. Fraser Needham, APTN National News, Ottawa.
For more on this historic decision, we're joined by the Minister of Indigenous Services, Patty Hajdu. Minister Hajdu, thanks for being with us. The tribunal ordered Canada to pay compensation in 2019. 4 years later, people are still waiting when they'll see that money. Can you tell us when that might happen?
Well, first of all, let me just say this is the largest settlement in Canadian history at $23 billion, and we're so pleased that the federal court has approved the agreement in principle. And families, you're right, have been waiting for a very long time to see justice, and today justice was served, and Canada is now obviously will honor that agreement that we signed a couple of years ago.
Can you tell us who might be deciding how the compensation will be distributed?
Yeah, so there is a settlement implementation committee that is comprised of Indigenous peoples who will design how the settlement is paid and how there will be safeguards in place to ensure that the experience of claiming, putting in a claim is a safe experience for people. We saw with previous settlements that there was, although obviously a recognition through the settlements that of the harm created by, for example, residential schools, that the process itself could be also harmful. And so this has been part of the work of the parties to make sure that this settlement process will be Indigenous-led, and so that committee will be working very, very quickly to try to ensure that the process unfolds smoothly, quickly, and in a way that supports Indigenous mental wellness.
There have been calls for the Prime Minister to issue an apology on this. Do you know where we're at with that?
Well, listen, I think it's really important that we, first of all, recognize that this historic settlement is an indication of the guilt of Canada, if you will, to perpetuate systemic discrimination in the child welfare system. And I know that the parties are asking for the Prime Minister to apologize to the so many families that have been harmed by that system. When we say that, oftentimes Canadians can't even imagine what kinds of harms. And yet hearing the representative class members talk yesterday at a ceremony, it's as broad as people being removed from their homes and then raised in multiple foster homes, disconnected from family, language, and culture, and struggling in sometimes hostile environments, to people living with severe disabilities and not having the supports they need to stay at home and be cared for in community, surrounded by the people that love them, and so many other stories. And so the need for an apology, the need for recognition is something I fully understand.
Minister Hajdu, there are those who say that, this is great that this is happening now, that there's a settlement, but that the discrimination in the system continues today. Is that something you'd agree with?
I would agree with that, and in fact that's why the agreement in principle 2 years ago had a component for compensation for harms perpetuated, and that's the decision by the court today that agreement is now solid and accepted by all parties. But the second half is the reforming the system, and that work continues with all of the parties. It's about making sure that we don't continue that kind of systemic discrimination going into the future. All the parties remain at the table to ensure that this very difficult and complicated piece of work gets done and is appropriately resourced. And I'm proud to continue that work with the parties.
Minister Hajdu, we'll have to leave it there, but appreciate you taking some time for us on this day.
Thank you very much, Dennis.
Now, we'd like to hear from you if you're impacted by today's decision on the child welfare compensation package. Here's some of the ways you can continue that conversation. If you have a story you want to share, send us an email to news@aptn.ca. Or to read and watch our stories, you can go to our website, aptnnews.ca. You can find us online on your favorite social media sites, including TikTok, YouTube, LinkedIn, and X. Follow APTN News to join the conversation and see our latest stories. To Winnipeg now, where a First Nations man who was convicted of murder nearly 50 years ago has been granted bail pending a review of his case. His lawyers with Innocence Canada say it was a wrongful conviction. Tamara Pimentel has more.
Very emotional and really happy. I got to see my brother and to come back home.
Linda Anderson speaks with reporters outside the Winnipeg courthouse following her brother's bail hearing. 72-year-old Clarence Woodhouse was granted bail Monday afternoon, pending a review of his murder conviction from 49 years ago. Clarence couldn't appear on camera. He had to go back to the Stony Mountain institution north of Winnipeg to clean out his cell. Lawyers Jerome Kennedy and James Lockyer with Innocence Canada call Clarence's conviction a miscarriage of justice.
Let's never forget the basis of this case started with the systemic racism that affected these men at all levels of the criminal justice system.
Clarence Woodhouse of the Penamutang First Nation north of Winnipeg is one of 4 Indigenous men who were convicted in the 1973 death of Ting Fong Chan, a restaurant worker who was stabbed to death in Winnipeg. One of the accused, Russell Woodhouse, died in 2011. Brian Anderson and Alan Woodhouse were acquitted in July.
The remarkable thing about Clarence and his brother Russell is that they gave confessions in fluent English, and neither of them spoke fluent English. Saulteaux was and still is their main language.
Brian Anderson was at the courthouse to support Clarence.
Well, I'm happy for him. It's finally happening. Yeah, I've been doing good too. I'm happy.
What have the past 3 months been like for you?
Well, it's a relief sort of thing. You don't have to go report to anybody anymore. Yeah, nobody following you around anymore.
Linda Anderson says she looks forward to having a brother around.
It's very, very sad, and as if they died, and I didn't have a brother anymore, even though I only had 3 and 2 died, and they're just me and Clarence now.
Tamara Pimentel, APTN National News, Winnipeg.
Quite the decision there. Time to step aside for a quick break. Still to come, 100% Indigenous staffed. A new bank opens in Tsuut'ina First Nation.
Tsuut'ina is open for business, Calgary, and all across Alberta, all across Canada. You let them know Tsuut'ina is open for business.
Welcome back. The Tsuut'ina Nation, which borders Calgary and Alberta, now has a new TD Bank, and it's 100% staffed by Indigenous employees. APTN's Chris Stewart was there for the official opening.
About 100 people were on hand Friday at the Tsuut'ina Nation's Buffalo Run Retail Land for the official opening of the Toronto-Dominion Bank's newest branch. This TD branch is special. Everyone employed here is Indigenous, the first TD branch in Alberta to do so. Minor Chief Kendall Jacobs welcomed TD to the Tsuut'ina Nation.
Big company like TD Bank wants to build out here and be part of Tsuut'ina. I'm all for that. Tsuut'ina is open for business, Calgary, and all across Alberta, all across Canada. You let them know Tsuut'ina is open for business. Time to start.
He says the nation is looking at adding more outside partners for expansion.
I was talking with my friend the other day, just out here today, and he said real true reconciliation is about working with us as partners, helping us, or else getting out of our way, letting us do things the right way.
Jamie Albright is a branch manager at the new location. She was instrumental in getting the branch built.
Today for me, it's a historical moment. To have TD recognize that we need to go out to First Nations communities, and then to ensure that our vision of having 100% Indigenous being carried out, it's remarkable. It's not an easy task, but it's a necessary one.
TD donated $5,000 to the Tsuut'ina Food Bank. Albright was emotional talking about and showing her new employees at the opening.
I'm incredibly proud of the fact that each one of these people have heart, have commitment, have a desire to make that change in the community. And so it's hard not to get emotional because I know the challenges that they'll be faced with. I know that sometimes they'll be ridiculed for working for corporate Canada. But I also know that they see a better future.
Chris Stewart, APTN National News, Tsuut'ina Nation, Alberta.
Congrats to them. Well, when you hear the name Pumpkin Inferno, you may be thinking of a big pile of the orange squash lit on fire. But at Upper Canada Village in Eastern Ontario, that's not the case. It usually means gourds and ghouls on display leading up to Halloween. And this year, the historical site has formed a unique partnership with Akwesasne Travel. Annette Francis has that story.
Since September, members of the public have had the opportunity to walk through Pumpkin Inferno. It's an after-dark artistic display of hand-carved pumpkins, along with lights and sounds. Among the 7,000 exhibits is a new display of Haudenosaunee smoke dancers, also made out of carved pumpkins.
We have singers from the Native North American Traveling College providing the actual smoke dance songs, and they're using a horn rattle and a water drum. And the design is so amazing. It not only showcases the energy of the dance, but also our people's expression and artistry, everything from head to toe, or as we would say, from their gustoa to their moccasins.
It's all part of a collaboration that began a year ago between Akwesasne Travel and Upper Canada Village. Last year, the legend of the Hoofed Lady was included, a supernatural being who scares mischievous youth for misbehaving. Mackenzie Lazor says it's amazing to see it all come together.
It's everything. It's everything that we shoot to do. We want people to come to Akwesasne to see all that we have to offer, but another flip side of that is to go elsewhere and for others to know what we are, who we are, and what we can do, and to share our cultures.
Karen Atchison says for the past 11 years, people have been walking the pathways here to experience the stunning pumpkin cutout themes. And each year they grow the exhibit and a new theme is created. She says it's been a great collaboration.
Even just while we're standing here, we've had some younger, probably young students, young elementary students saying, "Oh, Mohawk," and then they read the message, "The Smoke Dancer," the title of the exhibit, and go on and they're hearing this wonderful music tied into these beautiful dancers. To me, it's an educational moment.
Visitor Amy Mullica saw the exhibit for the first time with her daughters. She agrees it's educational.
I think it's important that we have this to represent our Indigenous community here in Cornwall because it's so important, so I'm really happy that we have this here.
That's what the partnership is all about.
This is a really great introduction to people who may not have been to Akwesasne before, but maybe have heard of the powwow or sort of have these bits and pieces of our culture.
Barrero and Lazor hope to have more collaborations like this in the future. The exhibit closes on Sunday for the season. Annette Francis, APTN National News, Upper Canada Village.
Absolutely stunning. Thanks, Annette. We'll bring you a preview of tonight's Face to Face coming up after the break. Welcome back. Time now for our photo of the day. Antoinette Tom shares with us this shoreline of Babine Lake, located in the interior of central British Columbia. Great shot there of the waves crashing. Thanks for all the photos we get. If you want to be our next photo of the day, you can send your photos to share@aptn.ca. And I feel like a lot of those photos are going to start having the white stuff in them. Here's a look at tomorrow's weather forecast. Starting on the East Coast, 18 for Halifax, 16 in Fredericton. +3 with snow in Kuujjuaq, 4 above in Nain. 19 with showers in Montreal, rain, and 6 for Chibougamau. 14 with rain in Sault Ste. Marie, showers and 15 in North Bay. 10 with rain for Thunder Bay, 5 and showers in Sioux Lookout. -3 with snow in Churchill, 0 in God's Lake. +2 with flurries in Winnipeg, -1 and snow in Dauphin. Cloudy and 7 below in Regina, -4 for Saskatoon. 3 below in Meadow Lake, snow and 4 below in La Ronge. In northern Alberta, -3 with snow in High Level, 5 below and snow in Fort Chip. -5 in Edmonton, flurries and 9 below for Lethbridge. +11 with showers in Vancouver and Victoria. -2 in Prince George, sun's out, and 0 in Smithers. -4 for Old Crow and Whitehorse, 11 below in Mayo. 0 with snow in Yellowknife and Wrigley. -5 and flurries in Sax Harbor, snow and 3 below for Paulatuck. More snow and -2 in Chesterfield. Flurries and 4 below in Arviette. -15 in Resolute. 3 below with snow in Igloolik. A dozen quilts hand-sewn on elk hide are now on display at the Art Gallery of St. Albert.
It's one of the things Heather was really interested in showcasing this work is not only her history, Indigenous uses of the landscape, ways people have traveled them, but showing how these landscapes are changing over time and a lot of the damage that's been done to these local ecosystems.
They're part of a new exhibition showcasing Indigenous artwork along with stories of Alberta's land. Local artist Heather Schillinglaw created the quilts over 3 years. A new mental wellness unit at the Whitehorse General Hospital received a bump in funding thanks to a donation from a Whitehorse-based airline company. Alcan Air is donating $200,000 over 5 years to the Yukon Hospital Foundation, which supports mental wellness in the territory. Construction is already underway for a new 12-room unit at the hospital. It'll include an indoor and outdoor gathering space, a healing area, and exercise room. Construction is expected to be completed in July 2024. Alcan Air President Wendy Taylor says the new unit is needed because there is a territory-wide mental health crisis.
I think it's fair to say that thanks to COVID, each and every one of us in this room has had a brush with mental health. Whether it was us as individuals or whether it was somebody we loved, we all dealt with mental health in some way, shape, or form.
Broken Head Ojibwe Nation Chief Gordon Blue Sky is our guest on an all-new episode of Face to Face tonight. He's also the chairperson for Treaty 1 Inc., the group overseeing the development of the largest urban reserve in Canada. It's been quite a journey for Blue Sky, who was adopted out during the 60s scoop to a family in the United States. He says a big part of his journey to becoming a chief was dealing with his own trauma.
We have to deal with that trauma. I was taken from my community that I don't remember. You know, I have a faint memory, I believe, of my grandmother. But ultimately, when I started to remember things, it was trauma. It was scared. It was sadness. It was, you know, dark things that I don't even want to talk about. But it was things that I remember, and that was my earliest childhood memories. And I know a lot of our people share the experiences that I have. And so we have to work our way through that.
And you can catch that episode of Face to Face with our guest, Chief Blue Sky, right here in less than 2 minutes' time. And if you miss it or want to catch up on anything else you may have missed, you can head on over to our website, aptnnews.ca, or our APTN News YouTube page. You'll also want to join us live here tomorrow at 3 p.m. Eastern Time for In Focus, where tomorrow's show is highlighting youth making a difference in society. That is all the time we have for your APTN National News for this Tuesday. I'm Dennis Ward. Marcy, thanks for being with us. Have a great night.